Thinking, Fast and Slow is one of the most popular science books written by psychologist Daniel Kahneman. The book's main thesis is a differentiation between two modes of thought. The author called them System 1 and 2. System 1 is the part of our brain that operates intuitively and suddenly, often without our conscious control. You can experience this system at work when you hear a very loud and unexpected sound. What do? You probably immediately and automatically shift your attention toward the sound. That's System 1. System 2 is what we think of when we visualize the part of the brain responsible for our individual decision-making, reasoning, and beliefs. It deals with conscious activities of the mind, such as self-control, choices, and more deliberate focus of attention. Picture yourself searching for a woman in a crowd. Your mind intentionally concentrates on the objective, recalling her features and relevant details to aid in locating her. This focused attention minimizes distractions, making you less aware of other individuals in the crowd. Consistently maintaining this concentration increases the likelihood of spotting her within a few minutes. Conversely, being distracted and losing focus can make finding her challenging. To better understand how your mind works in all your life scenarios, I've prepared 7 key ideas from the book that are going to help you use your brain in the most efficient way possible. Without further delay, let's begin with first key idea. Lazy mind can lead to errors and affect our intelligence. To see how the two systems work, try solving this famous bat and ball problem. A bat and ball cost $1.10. The bat costs $1 more than the ball. How much does the ball cost? The price that most likely came to your mind, 10 cents, is a result of the intuitive and automatic System 1, and it's wrong. Take a second and do the math now. Do you see your mistake? The correct answer is 5 cents. What happened was that your impulsive System 1 took control and automatically answered by relying on intuition, but it answered too fast. Usually, when faced with a situation it can't comprehend, System 1 calls on System 2 to work out the problem, but in the bat and ball problem, System 1 is tricked. It perceives the problem as simpler than it is, and incorrectly assumes it can handle it on its own. The issue the bat and ball problem exposes is our innate mental laziness. When we use our brain, we tend to use the minimum amount of energy possible for each task. This is known as the law of least effort. Because checking the answer with System 2 would use more energy, our mind won't do it when it thinks it can just get by with System 1. This laziness is unfortunate because using System 2 is an important aspect of our intelligence. Research shows that practicing System 2 tasks, like focus and self-control, lead to higher intelligence scores. The bat and ball problem illustrates this, as our minds could have checked the answer by using System 2, and thereby avoided making this common error. Second key idea. The reason we do not consistently maintain conscious control over our thoughts and actions. What comes first in our mind when you see the word fragment? So_P. Probably nothing. What if you first consider the word eat? Now, if you look again at the word so_P, you would probably complete it as soup. This process is known as priming. We're primed when exposure to a word, concept, or event causes us to summon related words and concepts. If you had seen the word shower instead of eat above, you probably would have completed the letters as soap. Such priming not only affects the way we think, but also the way we act. Just as the mind is affected by hearing certain words and concepts, the body can be affected as well. A great example of this can be found in a study in which participants primed with words associated with being elderly, such as Florida and wrinkle, responded by walking at a slower pace than usual. Incredibly, the priming of actions and thoughts is completely unconscious. We do it without realizing. This demonstrates that our actions, judgments, and choices are not consistently under conscious control. Instead, we are continually influenced by specific social and cultural conditions that act as constant primers in shaping our behavior. For example, research done by Kathleen Vohs proves that the concept of money primes individualistic actions. People primed with the idea of money, for example, through being exposed to images of money, act more independently and are less willing to be involved with, depend on, or accept demands from others. One implication of Vohs's research is that living in a society filled with triggers that prime money could nudge our behavior away from altruism. Priming, similar to various societal factors, has the capacity to shape an individual's thoughts, subsequently influencing their choices, judgments, and behavior. These individual influences, in turn, contribute to the broader culture and significantly impact the nature of the society we live in. Third key idea: how the mind swiftly makes decisions, even in situations where there is insufficient information for a rational choice. Imagine meeting someone named Ben at a party, and you find him to be a good conversationalist. Later, when someone seeks individuals willing to contribute to their charity, you immediately think of Ben, despite your limited knowledge of him, based solely on the positive impression that he is easy to talk to. Essentially, you formed an opinion about Ben's overall character based on a single favorable trait, a common tendency to judge or evaluate a person even with minimal information about them. Our mind's tendency to oversimplify things without sufficient information often leads to judgment errors. This is called exaggerated emotional coherence, also known as the halo effect. Positive feelings about Ben's approachability cause you to place a halo on Ben, even though you know very little about him. But this is not the only way our minds take shortcuts when making judgments. There is also confirmation bias, which is the tendency for people to agree with information that supports their previously held beliefs, as well as to accept whatever information is suggested to them. This can be shown if we ask the question, "Is James friendly?" Studies have shown that, faced with this question but no other information, we're very likely to consider James friendly because the mind automatically confirms the suggested idea. The halo effect and confirmation bias both occur because our minds are eager to make quick judgments. But this often leads to mistakes because we don't always have enough data to make an accurate call. Our minds often resort to incorrect cues and oversimplified explanations to fill the voids in information, potentially leading us to erroneous conclusions. Similar to priming, these cognitive occurrences take place unconsciously and have an impact on our choices, judgments, and actions. Fourth key idea: how the mind employs shortcuts for rapid decision-making. Frequently, we encounter scenarios requiring swift judgments. To assist in this, our minds have evolved small, quick decision-making aids known as heuristics. While these processes are generally beneficial, the challenge lies in the tendency of our minds to excessively rely on them. Utilizing heuristics in unsuitable situations can lead us to make mistakes. To get a better understanding of what heuristics are and what mistakes they can lead to, we can examine two of their many types: the substitution heuristic and the availability heuristic. The substitution heuristic is where we answer an easier question than the one that was actually posed. Take this question, for example. That woman is a candidate for sheriff. How successful will she be in office? We automatically substitute the question we're supposed to answer with an easier one, like, does this woman look like someone who will make a good sheriff? This heuristic means that instead of researching the candidate's background and policies, we merely ask ourselves the far easier question of whether this woman matches our mental image of a good sheriff. Unfortunately, if the woman does not fit our image of a sheriff, we could reject her, even if she has years of crime-fighting experience that make her the ideal candidate. Next, there is the availability heuristic. which is where you overestimate the probability of something you hear often or find easy to remember. For example, strokes cause many more deaths than accidents do, but one study found that 80% of respondents considered an accidental death a more likely fate. This is because we hear of accidental deaths more in the media and because they make a stronger impression on us. We remember horrific accidental deaths more readily than deaths from strokes, and so we may react inappropriately to these dangers. Fifth key idea. Our difficulties in understanding statistics lead to avoidable errors. How can you make predictions on whether certain things will happen? One effective way is to keep the base rate in mind. This refers to a statistical base, which other statistics rely on. For example, imagine a large taxi company has 20% yellow cabs and 80% red cabs. That means the base rate for yellow taxi cabs is 20%, and the base rate for red cabs is 80%. If you order a cab and want to guess its color, remember the base rates, and you will make a fairly accurate prediction. We should therefore always remember the base rate when predicting an event. But unfortunately, this doesn't happen. In fact, base rate neglect is extremely common. One of the reasons we find ourselves ignoring the base rate is that we focus on what we expect rather than what is most likely. For example, imagine those cabs again. If you were to see 5 red cabs pass by, you'd probably start to feel it's quite likely that the next one will be yellow for a change. But no matter how many cabs of either color go by, the probability that the next cab will be red will still be around 80%. And if we remember the base rate, we should realize this. But instead, we tend to focus on what we expect to see, a yellow cab, and so we will likely be wrong. Base rate neglect is a frequent error associated with the broader challenge of dealing with statistics. Additionally, we encounter difficulty in recognizing the concept that everything tends to revert to the mean. This entails acknowledging that all situations possess an average status, and deviations from that average will eventually shift back toward the average. For example, if a football striker who averages 5 goals per month scores 10 goals in September, her coach will be ecstatic. But if she then goes on to score around 5 goals per month for the rest of the year, her coach will probably criticize her for not continuing her hot streak. The striker wouldn't deserve this criticism, though, because she is only regressing to the mean. Sixth key idea: why our decisions aren't solely driven by rational thought processes. How do individuals go about making decisions? For a long time, a powerful and influential group of economists suggested that we made decisions based purely on rational argument. They argued that we all make choices according to utility theory, which states that when individuals make decisions, they look only at the rational facts and choose the option with the best overall outcome for them, meaning the most utility. For example, utility theory would posit this kind of statement: if you like oranges more than you like kiwis, then you're also going to take a 10% chance of winning an orange over a 10% chance of winning a kiwi. Seems obvious, right? The most influential group of economists in this field centered on the Chicago School of Economics and their most famous scholar, Milton Friedman. Using utility theory, the Chicago School argued that individuals in the marketplace are ultra-rational decision-makers, whom economist Richard Thaler and lawyer Cass Sunstein later named econs. As econs, each individual acts in the same way, valuing goods and services based on their rational needs. What's more, econs also value their wealth rationally, weighing only how much utility it provides them. So imagine 2 people, John and Jenny, who both have fortunes of $5 million. According to utility theory, they have the same wealth, meaning they should both be equally happy with their finances. But what if we complicate things a little? Let's say that their $5 million fortunes are the end result of a day at the casino, and the two had vastly different starting points. John walked in with a mere $1 million and quintupled his money, whereas Jenny came in with $9 million that dwindled down to $5 million. do you still think John and Jenny are equally happy with their $5 million? Unlikely. Clearly, then, there is something more to the way we value things than pure utility. Seventh key idea: emotional factors in our decision-making process. If utility theory isn't effective, what alternatives exist? One such alternative is prospect theory, devised by the author. Kahneman's prospect theory presents a challenge to utility theory, revealing that our decision-making processes often deviate from pure rationality. Imagine these two scenarios, for example. In the first scenario, you're given $1,000 and then must choose between receiving a definite $500 or taking a 50% chance to win another $1,000. In the second scenario, you're given $2,000 and must then choose between a sure loss of $500 or taking a 50% chance on losing $1,000. If we made purely rational choices, then we would make the same choice in both cases. But this isn't the case. In the first instance, most people choose to take the sure bet, while in the second case, most people take a gamble. Prospect theory helps to explain why this is the case. It highlights at least two reasons why we don't always act rationally. Both of them feature our loss aversion, the fact that we fear losses more than we value gains. The first reason is that we value things based on reference points. Starting with $1,000 or $2,000 in the two scenarios changes whether we're willing to gamble, because the starting point affects how we value our position. The reference point in the first scenario is $1,000 and $2,000 in the second, which means ending up at $1,500 feels like a win in the first, but a distasteful loss in the second. Even though our reasoning here is clearly irrational, we understand value as much by our starting point as by the actual objective value at the time. Second, we're influenced by the diminishing sensitivity principle. The value we perceive may be different from its actual worth. For instance, going from $1,000 to $900 doesn't feel as bad as going from $200 to $100, despite the monetary value of both losses being equal. Similarly, in our example, the perceived value lost when going from $1,500 to $1,000 is greater than when going from $2,000 to $1,500. That was it for this video. If you enjoyed watching it, leave your like and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. Thanks for watching.